Welcome to Mindful School Marketing, your go-to podcast for personal and professional growth.
We're school marketers, business owners, and moms passionate about connecting other school professionals with tools and strategies for success.
We love solving problems, exploring new ideas, and thinking outside the box. Let's transform your school and life starting right now.
This episode is brought to you by Inquiry Tracker. Easily manage all of your inquiries, tours, open houses, and applications with a system designed by K-12 education, marketing, and admissions professionals.
Welcome to Mindful School Marketing. I'm Aubrey Bursch.
And I'm Tara Clays. Today we're joined by Brad Entwhistle. Brad is the founding partner of imageseven in Australia. Since 1990, he has led his team on a mission to amplify the impact of schools by working directly with school heads, tailoring solutions to maximize their communication and marketing effectiveness. Welcome, Brad. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to join you.
Yes, Brad, we're super excited you're here, and I can't wait to hear you share all your branding tips with us. But before we get started, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and maybe your journey?
I think my journey is distinctly not memorable. It's, from my perspective, it's just been a journey of putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. But I started always had this love for audio and marketing, communications, did a couple of sales jobs straight out of school, and then worked with an audio firm. And while I was doing that, I started doing communications consulting. And so I'm now talking 1986, and I went out, hung up my shingle with the full intention of being the one-man communications consultant. Primarily then, it was intended to be business to business. And I found very quickly what the clients would say, you know, hand them the report, this is what we suggest. And even here's the professionals in the field to help you to do it. And invariably they'd say to me, that's great. Can you just do it for us? Can you make it happen? And so I really quickly realized that imageseven wasn't going to be just me. It was going to be a team who, and while we're still very much strategy first, that's our starting point for everything. The bulk of it is still around execution, making things happen. And the transition into education happened really quickly. In fact, our very first client ended up being an education client because my wife is an educator. She's been a principal, teacher, early childhood, and you do what good husbands do. And I got pulled into we need your help over here. Come and help us do this. And while it wasn't initially the intention, word spreads, and one school refers you to the next school, and we built an expertise in schools. And for a long time, it was far and away the bulk of the firm's work. And probably about 7 years ago now, we just said, let's just be purely education. So we primarily now work in K-12 schools, a little bit of tertiary, and a little bit of education-based associations, but primarily in that marketing and communication space. So the firm's grown over the years, so 36 odd years now. The team is 33 people. Working in all sorts of schools, from what would in Australia gets called the elite schools, the high fee, big name prestige schools, right down to the local community Christian school. And we have a lot of fun. It's varied.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love the transition that you made and how you just fell into the education space. I have a similar experience as well in terms of learning. That's where I found my passion. So yeah. imageseven, the name imageseven would make you think that you're thinking about identity and branding. Is that what your company specializes in, is branding? Is that correct?
We do a lot of branding. Yeah, we do a lot of branding. The name, if you like, the backstory on the name is absolutely what I would not recommend any client do now in terms of naming a business. So remember, this is back in 86. I happened to be, I mentioned radio. I was doing a regular program on a community station at the time, which was contemporary Christian music, as it was then called. It's not even a category, I don't think, anymore. It's just Christian music, but contemporary Christian music. And this was vinyl. We're talking flat pieces of vinyl. And you get really good at reading the track titles as the record's going around. So you're doing this with your head and reading the track. But this one record label was called imageseven. And I was just thinking, why did they name that imageseven? And in the Bible, the number 7 is the picture of perfection. And so it was like, oh, the image of perfection. They're trying to do things the best that can be done. And so I just adopted that for imageseven. And I later ended up knowing by email, knowing the chap in Canada who had actually formed that record label. So it was nice.
That's really interesting.
As I say, not a path to doing good branding.
Yeah, when you have to explain it, that sometimes takes away from the immediate impression that you get. But I know that you do branding, and we're going to talk to you a bit about your expertise in that area today. And so I wanted to start out by having you define for us what branding is and what makes school branding unique.
Sure. As anybody in this field would know, Google definition of branding, and there's a gazillion different definitions of branding, but one that we have settled on, which works really well for schools, is it's who you are, what you promise, and your ability and intention to keep that promise. While many people think branding is about logos, colors, typefaces, that sort of stuff, they're all just the symbols, the way we get to interpret the brand. But the most important part of the brand is who you are, understanding who you are, what's important to you, what your values are as a school. That's critical. And then understanding what your promise, because that's how parents choose you. They determine what your promise is as, can I trust my child to this school? Will they deliver on what they promise? And therefore the rest of it. So branding is big. So it can include everything from the pick-up and drop-off line at the school. Is it traffic chaos? To how teachers interact with parents and students and the architecture of the school. All of that is your branding. But probably the easiest way to think about it is the brand is, if your school was a person, how would they describe you? And that's a really good definition of branding. It's intrinsically tied up with that, what you promise. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, if you make a brand that makes a promise and then fails to deliver on it, ultimately it's a lie. And nobody would want to be thought of as a liar, but we all know brands that don't deliver on what they promise. And it's ultimately not a very fulfilling experience. So schools really have to, school marketers in particular, have to be very sure about what we're promising and can we follow through on that. And often we're dealing with 13 years of a child's life, and if we're talking about a family, there's a few more years potential in that. These are long-term promises. They're not things to be made lightly. So what we do is we uncover parts of the school that would, firstly, what we look for are things that resonate with the audience, differentiate you, and then things that can substantiate your promise and your ability to deliver on that promise. And once we've found that, it's about amplifying, trying to find the right way to turn that up. And it's a really good formula. It's a really good framework.
I love the idea of thinking of branding as a person. How would you describe that person? And I think you hit on something really important, is that like parents are entrusting their most precious thing, their child, to a school. And they are doing that with the understanding that the school is delivering on a promise, right? And I think that is such an important aspect of what you were saying that really resonates with me as both a mom and a marketer. So thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, you've been in this field for 30 plus years. What are some common mistakes with schools when it comes to branding?
I think if I condensed it down to just one thing, I'd think that too many people try and think of school marketing just as though it was business to consumer marketing. It's not. It's different. It's got these unique characteristics, which, as I said, I started off in business to business, and it's actually got more alignment with business to business than it has with business to consumer marketing. And you've probably got to be a bit of a geek to get into that level. But there's a bunch of things which make it unique. One of the things that we always start off with is school marketing starts on the inside. So by that we mean if you've got in a school, you've got this wide array of people, different personalities doing different jobs. And if they're not in alignment, then as soon as somebody comes from the outside, they come on a school tour, do a visit, they're going to notice that dissonance, that it's not right, it's not matching. We'll often say to clients, don't worry about what your media spend is or what the media plan is going to be just yet. Get alignment on the inside, because it's the best dollar you can spend on your marketing is actually getting your service right first. Struck a chord there. But yeah, it begins on the inside. The brand is important, essentially, as we said, because about who can I trust? And if we're not answering that trust question, all the branding in the world is for nothing. What else? Education products, what you're selling, they're actually complex products and services. It's not like my team will love it because I always get Pepsi into the conversation somehow, but it's just a really great brand example. But that is not a complex product. Your school is an incredibly complex product. Dealing with every child is a complex equation of their own. Every teacher, so that brings in all of these different variables that somehow or other a marketer's got to encapsulate, keep the message simple, but still remain truthful. So that's really different. The purchase cycles are long. I think from what I know in the States, it's very much similar, but the higher fee schools, the purchase consideration times are much longer. For some of our schools in Australia, the joke is, but it's not a joke, that families come in with an ultrasound and they go, it's a boy, I want to enroll him. And they do. But even at the lower fee end in Australia, that purchase consideration cycle can easily be 6 months, 12 months. The long nurture cycles are involved. There's, of course, fewer education buyers as opposed to a can of Pepsi. So that has an impact on how you choose your media purchases, your channel decisions. So that's another thing that makes it not business to consumer. You've got to be particularly tight. And of course, the world of digital has made that just so much easier. And I think one of the things is that education purchases, while they look like incredibly logical and rational decisions that parents are making, and they're trying to make out that they are they're researching this and they're doing a spreadsheet of the pros and cons, they're emotional decisions. At the end of the day, everything is just to justify an emotional decision. So if you get that first meeting, that the look of the school, the architecture, all of those things that's why they're part of marketing. That's why they're part of the brand. So that's just some of I can go on and on.
No, that's great. It's fascinating. The holistic approach to marketing, I think, is somewhat unique, and it's something that marketers don't often think about. And I think even heads of school, right, administration, you think that's the marketing team's job, that's the marketing person's job. And it's really not just their job, because what you're describing, it has to come from the top, and it has to be the whole entire fabric of the school is part of this brand. And as someone who also does branding, I think we think, like you were saying, very much about logo and color palette and style guides. And those are certainly important, because that's absolutely visually important. What people will see first before they even know anything about your school. They're going to see your logo, right? And so your logo is a representation of your school, and it's very important that it match, right? If you have a very formal logo in a very casual school, that's not a good fit. Some schools go through a process of rebranding. Redesign, rebrand. So, thinking maybe specifically about visually, because I think when a school thinks about doing a rebrand, they're not thinking about a holistic view of let's redo the fabric of our school. They're thinking a rebrand, let's rebrand our logo and our website and our brochures and all of that. So it's a big undertaking. It's a big financial undertaking, and it's a process. And knowing your strategic approach to this, what advice would you give to a school who's considering a rebrand?
Don't. No, I need to add context now. Don't jump at it really quick. Take a very considered approach, because when it all boils down, the only to consider doing a rebrand is to say to the marketplace, please look at us again. Please reconsider the opinions that you have formed about us. Now, of course, that's to the marketplace who might already know you exist. They've already looked at you and formed an opinion. So you're saying, please reconsider. Okay. But we find that there's really three categories where people in schools will consider a rebrand. And the first one is what we think of as window dressing. And we've got brand problems, we know it. And we've just got to, if we can present a new look, we can fix that. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is a fresh face on a good place. And that's where we find lots of schools is the product is good, it's solid, stable, but they look like they came from 1980. And that's really the space that you're talking about there, Tara. They really need a facelift. Yeah. Yes. Otherwise, people will be rejecting them for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
And it's criminal when that happens. And the last one is the total brand overhaul. And by the total brand overhaul, that's when everybody recognizes that things are fundamentally wrong. And if nothing changes, it could be fatal for the school. And that's where it is a true, what I call brand refresh, brand in the holistic sense. You are going back and let's reimagine, who are we? What is our educational offering? What are our values? Now, normally they're things that stay fixed and solid, and rightly so for schools for many years. So that opportunity doesn't come along very often. In fact, just the opportunity to do a refresh doesn't come along very often. Back to my original comment was, don't do it, don't be too hasty, but do it in a very considered manner. It's not something to just jump out at. You wake up one morning and you think, I'm really tired of this, let's do a refresh. It needs more thought and consideration than that.
I really appreciate your take on branding, because I think a lot of times schools do go in with the window dressing approach. Like, all we need is a new logo and it's going to solve all our problems. But that's not the truth, as you mentioned.
If you change and what's behind the brand hasn't changed, you've asked people to look at you afresh and they do, and you're the same, and they'll go, it's fake. It's not honest.
Yeah, I really appreciate you diving deep into that, because I think a lot of people think, when they think of branding, they think, oh, just a new logo and that will just bring in the floods of enrollees, like, in prospective families are just going to come through the doors. So
I wish it worked like that.
No, me too. Switching gears, through the lens of our podcast, we talk about mindfulness and how it applies to school admissions professionals. How do you define mindfulness, and how would you apply it to school branding projects?
I find it hard. I really do. In everything that's going on, it's a busy world. Marketing communications in a school is, you know it. It's 100% on all the time, and people firing requests at you, and you're trying to slow everything down for a moment to actually make good decisions, considered decisions. So for me, mindfulness is actually being able to be in that moment, or even not even so much the moment, being in that moment of communication and being able to make good decisions, mindful decisions, sort of being grounded. But I'm a Christian. I have those faith values that I bring into the equation as well. So it's certainly not unusual for me when I'm at that point. Of course, we work across lots of schools, trying to actually go, what is the impact that this will have? What I'm talking to an audience, and really trying to connect with that. And it's not unusual for me to do that with prayer. I mean, you just stop for a moment and pray about what you're actually going to do, because frankly, it's scary sometimes. We're delivering a strategic report and recommendations to a client, for instance, and that can change the course of a school. It's important stuff. Yeah, for me, that's how I'd practice mindfulness, but still come back to, it's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, I find it hard.
I think it is, and I think it's a challenge to slow down and take that pause. And what you're describing, even though this process, this holistic process to branding, which I love, just that concept in and of itself is mindful, because you're talking about not just focusing and running into we need to change our logo, or branding is just our color palette or something. That holistic approach, I think, encompasses this mindfulness idea as well. So I think that we're on the same page there.
Yeah, and something else that I just thought of, I often try to put it into the place of it's not about me, it's about others. So often as marketers, we've got our key messages, we've got our brand values, and we're just trying to shoehorn those into whatever message we're working on at the time. Stepping back and going, this is not about what I want to achieve, it's about what can this school do, offer, communicate to the audience, to the prospective parent or the parent.
Yeah,
so it's about others.
Yeah, I love that. And this is a good transition to start asking a few of the questions we ask all of our guests. We do always talk about mindfulness, but we also ask, what are the most important things that you do to grow professionally and personally? So that might be a good segue from this other topic.
Read. And by read these days is, for me, it's as much about listening as reading. But books, magazines, audio books, it's just the more ideas that I can consume. And I always just figure, if I read a book or listen to a book and I can come away from that with one idea, just one idea that I can try, I can implement, or modifies what I'm thinking, or just grows me, it's been a great investment.
I love that. You're among fellow book lovers and podcast lovers. We're right there with you. So I would love to segue into our rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
It sounds dangerous. It's
going to be fun. Okay. If you could put one book as mandatory reading in the high school curriculum, what would it be?
This is going to sound corny, but it would be the New Testament of the Bible. Not for anything necessarily deeply spiritual, but that it's a foundation of a lot of Western society and Western values, even down to our systems of governance and things like that. So I think it's foundational in so many ways.
Okay, thanks. The next question is, what is one app that you couldn't live without?
Having just said about audiobooks, it'd have to be Audible, I think.
I do love Audible.
Yeah,
it's a dangerous addiction though.
yeah. And when I go for my run in the morning, or in fact, just yesterday, I came back from an 8-hour road trip visiting a couple of clients. You get a whole book into that.
You can. That's my favorite way to do a road trip. Is like without kids, because sometimes kids just doesn't work so well. But they listen to Audible books. So, I am curious. What are you reading right now?
Right now, in fact, it's right here. There we go. Seems like The Brand Gap. Yep, it's a book by Marty Neumeier. In fact, I really would recommend. I'm only 3/4 of the way through it, but I really would recommend it, because it's a great book that school marketers could give to their head and say, learn about brand.
I love that. And I'm not familiar with it. I'm going to look it up. We do have a Mindful School Marketing Goodreads list. I don't know if you use Goodreads, but all of the recommendations that we get from our guests, we've put into a Goodreads list. So anybody can check that out. We'll add that book to that Goodreads list. And the last question is, what is one great piece of advice that you can leave us with?
Okay, that marketing, school marketing, is actually like asking somebody on a date. So branding is what gets them to say yes to the date, but customer experience is what gets them to stay in the relationship.
Okay, I love that. I'm going to put that on my wall. that was a good one.
Yeah, it's not really original. It's not.
I
don't
care, but it was great.
I'm not sure where I lifted it from, but I
just own it. It's yours now. So, Brad, I'd love to know. Thank you so much for being on with us. Where can people find you online?
The website is the best, imageseven.com. So image and then the word seven, so seven.com.au. For all of you wonderful people in the States, you've got to remember the .au for Australia.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciated this conversation. Can't wait to share it. Have a great day.
You
See
too.
you later.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Inquiry Tracker is the all-in-one CRM solution used by over 250 schools. Easily manage all your inquiries, tours, and open houses. Key instant analytics help you manage and grow a robust pipeline. So end spreadsheets forever.
The smart online application system with powerful document upload is a game changer. No school is too small or too big, and their Fast Start program will get you up and running in no time.
Best of all, the system is designed by K through 12 education marketing and admissions professionals. Check out Inquiry Tracker at inquirytracker.net. That's inquiry with an E, tracker.net.
Thanks for joining us on the Mindful School Marketing Podcast.
We'd love it if you pop into iTunes and leave a review, 5-star preferred. Let us know how you like the show. It helps us improve what we're doing and helps others find us too.